Rugby World Cup 2023, folks. Top 5 takeaways for week number 2. We saw some pretty bloody interesting results at the weekend. Some games a wee bit closer than we expected. Not all the results going the way of the favourites. And, some big old blowouts as well. We'll go through 5 things that I've picked up on from the week that was. And you guys can let us know your thoughts on... what else has been going on with the Rugby World Cup? I should say for this one, written up a piece with Planet Rugby, so down in the description as well. Plenty of good rugby content going on with journos running around in France at the moment at the Rugby World Cup, so check out Planet Rugby. First one, I'm going to say Fijian Style. Now, when you say Fijian Style, you generally have a certain visualization in your mind about how Fiji likes to play the game. But that stereotype didn't really apply in their game against Australia, where they managed to get a much-needed kind of do-or-die win after the opening loss to Wales. And this style wasn't offloading. It wasn't kind of crazy running out your own 22 clean breaks and beating tackles and whatnot. It was a try which comes from a box kick which bamboozles the Aussie defenders. It was kicking your goals to accumulate points on the scoreboard, 5 of them. You know, being outscored by your opponents in terms of tries, but managing to win the game with the boot. And it was a heck of a kind of like maul defense, scrum, and especially work at the breakdown to just not give your opponents a chance to breathe. So, yeah, this Fijian side, and we talked about it prior to the competition, how they like scoring maul tries as well. Not that they did in this game against Australia, but the fact that Fiji win in the way that they won, or they won in the way that they won, shows there's something pretty special about this Fijian side. Like, don't mistake me, they can still do all the Nyatalevu and Habosi and Randradra crazy skills tries as well. But man, that was a Rugby World Cup win. That was like a Rugby World Cup quarterfinal win, because that game was essentially like a quarterfinal for them. A knockout game, because they had to win to stay alive, and they did. So, yeah, look out Rugby World Cup. You've got a Fijian side who's already in knockout mode, who can certainly play knockout rugby. So, yeah, well done, Fiji. Look out. That Fijian style we're going to all need to be mindful of. Secondly, I'm going to say Irish consistency. Why Irish consistency? Because Andy Farrell doesn't like to make 12 changes to his side. He likes to keep things pretty consistent. He had Romania in game 1, picked a strong team, and Tonga in game 2, picked a strong team. Results 82-8, 59-16, and they look slick. They look like a well-oiled machine. There are other teams at the weekend who maybe made more changes and didn't quite look as functional as the Irish side looked. Now, we're going to get to know more about where this Irish side is at when they take on a very good-looking Springboks side in their next game. But so far, man, like Ireland seem to have found this kind of right balance between consistency or cohesion and like keeping guys fresh and keeping guys involved from outside the 23. I'm not sure where the magic balancing act should fall. Like in New Zealand, we go back to 2003 where John Mitchell kept things super consistent. Then Tana Umanga got injured in our opening game of the World Cup and he ended up playing, was it like Leon McDonald at 13? We didn't have an appropriate kind of replacement, but then you've got other times when they've just gone full rotation policy, rest policy, don't play the guys policy, and it's not worked out. There's a happy balance. There's a zone. And Andy Farrell seems to be living right in the best spot of that zone. Seemingly. Like he hasn't had the injuries that other teams have had in terms of like an Intermark or a Marks or whatever go down just yet. Or a kind of red card that's affected things just yet. Obviously, Kean Healy getting injured prior to the World Cup was maybe the biggest loss, but still, that consistency seems to be paying off for Ireland. They've still got tougher games to come. They've had the kind of 2 easiest games of their pool thus far. We'll find out more as things go on, but so far, looking so good. I don't know what to call this one. SA 4D chess? Is that the right way to do it? Who knows what's going on in that South African brains trust? Those guys think outside the box. Before the World Cup, it was the 7-1 split that was the talk of the town, which was kind of a needs-must thing when Vili had a wee niggle prior to the start of a game. But it worked out pretty well, and the world kind of lost their minds about it. At least certain sections of the media lost their mind about it. Then game one, they had the signals from the box. You know, they couldn't get the messages down because the stadium's so noisy, so they were using signals. Then this week in their game against Romania, they've got 4 halfbacks in the squad. 3 of them linked up for a try at one point. You've got Malcolm Marx, who's one of their best players, out injured, being replaced by Andre Pollard. Great guy to have back, but he's not exactly the same position. You're replacing a hooker with a fly half. And then you've got Marco van Staden, who is a flanker, and apparently has been training at hooker for just this kind of occurrence, as maybe now their third choice hooker gets a bit of time against Romania to execute some of those hooker skills, like chucking the ball in at a line out. So, yeah, who knows what we're going to see next from South Africa. I feel like they're not done. I feel like they've still got more tricks up their sleeve, which is a great thing. I love the innovation. I think it's fantastic, and I want to see more of it. Like, it's equally as impressive to me as the balance that Andy Farrell seems to have right with Ireland. It's just that South Africa just seem to have more tricks up their sleeve. I don't say tricks in a negative way. Innovations. It's great. I love it. I want to see what else they've got in store for us, because Rugby World Cup, we should see the finest minds at work with that kind of thing. So, yes, we will see. Second to last, Tier 2 games. Every journalist, every press conferences after these games this weekend, because we saw a lot of mismatches, has had the questions, do you need more games against Tier 1 teams? And they universally answer yes. We seem to get this at every World Cup, where Tier 2 teams just basically beg for more games against Tier 1 teams. The results with Uruguay 12 against France's 27, I think shows you that there is a market for this kind of game. Portugal 8, Wales 28. Now you've also got the Namibia hiding against New Zealand. You've got the Romania second hiding in a row against South Africa. So there's also been some pretty big scorelines put on there. You would have liked Tonga to get a bit closer to Ireland. But with this new kind of global league on the cards and more of the Tier 1 teams playing the Tier 1 teams, the World Cup shows us at times that I feel we don't have enough games between the likes of New Zealand and Namibia. Maybe those aren't the right teams to be playing each other that often, because as we saw by the scoreline, it was kind of lopsided, but teams like Uruguay, Chile have shown a heck of a lot of promise, even if they got kind of handily beaten. And it always comes down to money. I know they want more games from Tier 1 to Tier 1 because it's going to bring in bigger bucks. But there needs to be a finer balance. And the balance of just prioritizing Tier 1 at the cost of all else doesn't seem to be right. The fact that Uruguay can go as close as they did to France, when France are one of the best teams in the world, playing at home at a World Cup, even if they change their players, I don't care, means I think they've earned a bit more. Fiji's win over Australia shows they should be in a competition like the Rugby Championship. The logistics and whatnot is tough. I know it's easy for me to sit here and say that, but for the good of the game, if it's going to be more of a global game than it currently is, I feel like that's an obvious one. But we only seem to be pretty much limited to World Cups at the moment. And lastly, can't spell England apparently. England, or let's go with English. English defence. It's good. It's been good. There's a lot of smack being talked about England. They're 2 from 2. Now, they beat harder opponents than some of the other teams have had to play thus far in the pool stages. They beat Japan and they beat Argentina. People thought they were going to lose to Argentina, even though I think the bookies had England as slight favourites. And they beat Japan with a bonus point. Admittedly, with Joe Marler doing a header for one of their tries, but England, they may not be looking like a South Africa or an Ireland, but I feel like we need to show a bit of credit where it's due. They may not be playing the most attractive rugby in terms of like just flying the wingers down the the wide channels and whatnot. But I mean, look at Fiji. They won by kicking their goals as well, and people didn't seem to be giving them too much grief about it. People are celebrating that victory. England concede 6 penalties against Japan, which is bugger all. They concede 7 against Argentina, which is bugger all. Their tackling percentage in both those games, 85% Japan, 86% Argentina. That's pretty good. It's not spectacular, but it's edging towards 90%, which is where you get into that really kind of top-notch territory. They've only conceded 1 try in 2 games. That's fantastic. Now, do I think England's going to beat a South Africa or an Ireland at the moment or a France? Probably not. But are England playing better than they were? I think so. And if the attack can click a little bit, then who knows where this England side could go. I think they're playing all right. English defence is probably not a bad thing to build a team around. If you've got a team which can defend and kick its goals, we've seen teams like that do well at World Cups before. As I said, I don't think England's a favourite for the World Cup, but a bit of credit where it's due. They've had a pretty good opening 2 rounds, even if it's not everybody's cup of tea to watch George Ford push his team around the park and kick drop goals and put sweet touch finders in. It's effective from 2 rounds. But there you go. 5 takeaways from week number 1. You guys let us know your thoughts. Check out the Planet Rugby article down in the description. And yeah, I'll talk to you guys again soon. See ya.